Hi, I'm Thora. I'm a linguist from Bangor University, and I'm also a person who likes spending time on the water. So a few years ago, I asked a friend, where is it safe to go? Where are the sandbanks underwater? And he told me, and he sounded really confident, so I believed him. And a few weeks later, I very nearly ran aground just where he had said it was safe. So, oh dear, I trusted the wrong person. Does that happen to you? Have you ever listened to someone who sounded very confident and you thought, well, they know what they're talking about, and then you found out later, actually, they have no clue? Or maybe you've been annoyed by a colleague who just talked down on you and then pretended to be the only person who knew anything about a topic. So these things happen. And the problem behind that is that expertise can sound really, really similar to confidence. And that's what I want to look at today. So what is confidence? Well, we can, for example, just pretend we are an expert. We can put a social media profile up and just pretend we are, well, let's say I am an expert in dental medicine. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you all about your teeth. Maybe not, I'm a linguist, so I better not do that. In language, we can talk loudly, have a clear pronunciation, maybe put in some technical terms, some jargon, maybe talk over others, interrupt others. Hang on a minute, am I talking about gender? Is this about mansplaining? I don't think so. I think it really goes both ways. Women can talk overly confident as well as men. However, there are some communicative styles, there are differences between men and women, how men and women talk. To some extent, women might more often come across as a bit shy or are more inclined to show lack of confidence, whereas men seem to have to adhere to the expectations of society that they always have to sound confident. So there might be a tendency there, but the situation is actually quite complex, and I'm not going to give you any very simple answers here. So, how do we recognize expertise? Well, for one thing, we do recognize intuitively when somebody sounds confident, and we are then inclined to believe that this person has a reason for sounding so confident. So we intuitively know these things. We have clear ideas about what it sounds like when somebody knows what they're talking about. And most of the time we can trust these intuitions, and we are right most of the times. Otherwise we wouldn't trust our own intuition so much if that wasn't the case. So that's one good thing. However, it is of course possible to pretend to know something when you actually don't, or people can sound very confident when they themselves believe in it, but still have no evidence for it. So that's possible as well. And some people are very skilled at just pretending something and pretending they're an expert in a field that they know very little about, because it might be good for their career or because they want to impress somebody. So in order to find out what's really going on, we need to look at it a bit more systematically, not intuitively, and see what's going on there. So for the past 20 years, I have been looking at the way people express their thoughts in language, doing discourse analysis. I've developed a methodology called cognitive discourse analysis, which looks at how people express their thoughts and concepts. And also I've looked at the ways in which they express knowledge, expertise, and certainty. So for instance, people sound very different when they talk to adults as opposed to children, because they are able to adapt what they say to their interaction partner. And we can find that out by looking at the language, the discourse they use systematically. So this is an example from a study that we did a few years back in Bremen University in Germany, where we asked people, excuse me, where is the cafeteria? And some of the people who were there had been in that building for many years, and they knew exactly where it was, and other people were there for the first time. And we wanted to know how that difference is reflected in language. So here's one response. Well, you could just try walking to the right here. Look out for the signs, best search for the main staircase. It must be there somewhere. So what do you think? Is that somebody who has been in the university for many years? I see some shaking heads. No. So we can recognize that in this case, the level of knowledge is actually reflected in the way this person talks. So that there's a match there, and that's what we recognize intuitively, that this person doesn't say, I'm not an expert, I don't know where it is, but the way they talk, the way they describe is something that reflects the level of knowledge quite accurately. So there's things like could, must, or modal verbs, we call that in linguistics, and then verbs like try and look out, search, all these the little indications that there's a level of uncertainty there. So experts know where their knowledge ends, and they will be able to express that in language, whereas people who don't know much about an area might sound confident to a degree, but actually have no clue. We need to find a way of seeing exactly what's going on. Because it's very important to distinguish between confident speakers and true knowledge in times of misinformation, fake news, and that sort of thing that's going on all the time. So in the following, I'm going to give you 5 questions that you can ask yourself next time you wonder what kind of person you're talking to. So the first question is, how likely is it that this person is an expert? So you might have known this person for a while and they have never ever talked about the topic. So you will probably want to ask them, how do you know that? Have you done a lot of reading on the topic? Have you watched a film? Or do you just follow something that has been said on Twitter? So that might be an indication. If they never have shown any expertise in the topic and suddenly seem to know everything about it, there needs to be a reason for that. So that's one indication, but of course there can be expertise in a person and you didn't know about that. So this is just one question. Second question you can ask yourself is, how does this person communicate in general? Because some people just need to dominate a conversation all the time, so they will always sound confident, no matter what they're talking about. Whereas others are a bit quieter, perhaps listen a bit more and only really speak up when they have something intelligent to say. And I would say that in those cases it might be useful sometimes to listen to the quieter voices, because they might have a bit more to contribute. Third question, and that from a discourse analysis perspective, that's probably the most important one. Is this person able to go into depth? Sweeping statements are very easy to make. Everybody can, or anybody can repeat something they've heard and just repeat the same message over and over again. But experts will be able to elaborate, to give more details, some arguments in different directions, and tell you a lot more about it. So that's really a good indication if people are able to elaborate and go into depth. Fourth question, is anybody actually certain, or can they be certain about the topic? Because there are some things that will always have some level of uncertainty attached to them. For instance, things that happened far in the past or into the future, or things that can't be repeated by a scientific experiment, things for which there are no eyewitnesses. So there are various things where we can have theories and we can have models and we can have sort of a lot of informed thoughts about how that might have happened or might happen in the future, but there is no absolute certainty. So nobody will seriously be able to tell us what the weather will be like 25 years from now on an exact date. Okay, so that's just not how it works. Experts will be able to come up with models that show you exactly the level of uncertainty that is attached to a certain event. So they can tell you possibly even a percentage of likelihood with which it will rain on a certain day in the future, but not whether or not it will actually rain. So that's a difference there. And the last question that I want to give you today is, can they provide information flexibly? Because people do adapt to their interaction partners. People have ideas how much their interaction partners know, and they will be able to adjust the level of information or the words that they use depending on who they're talking to. And that is actually really difficult to do when you don't actually have the knowledge. If you just repeat what you have heard somewhere, it will be pretty much the same words repeated in very similar ways. So to give you one example for that, route directions, I don't know when's the last time you needed to get somewhere where you didn't know how to get there. If you used an automatic navigation system, you will have been told turn right here and then turn left there and 300 yards and so on. These simple formulas which will be repeated over again. However, if you ask the friend, they would probably, if it's in advance route direction, they will probably not come up with these very stereotypical formulations, but they will assume that you know already part of the route. They will have some idea of what you already know and skip over these parts and give you more information on the tricky bits where it's a bit more difficult. So they can adapt to your knowledge and they will give you just the information that you need. So that's it. So equipped with these 5 questions, I hope you feel confident that you will be able to distinguish between experts and the non-stop talkers who don't know really very much. Thank you very much.